What do you think is like the right mindset behind CGM and wearables where you're getting the valuable information, you're getting everything you need from levels, but you're not letting the data over consume you?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, this one's tricky because there are different personalities at stake. You know, for me, the benefits that I get from CGM now are a lot different than they were in the beginning. In the beginning, it was a mind-blowing realization constantly. It's just like every day I was coming across some unintuitive realization that, oh, that's, you know, so when my blood sugar is crashing from 180, that's when I needed to get another coffee, or when I would literally feel like I needed to have a nap. Or that sensation I would feel when I would fuel up for a run and then run out the door was my muscles over-consuming glucose in combination with a huge blood sugar spike that insulin has been released in my system is also bringing down, and I bonk. And that's what that effect is, and why my run times are so different on a Monday after when I run in the morning right after that shake versus in the evening. All these intuitive and counterintuitive things coming together is like a magic moment powerhouse for me. Now I've learned many of those lessons. I'm rarely surprised by something that happens, but it's an accountability mechanism.
Yeah.
So I'm much more likely to act the way I want to act when I know that the data is there and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to see it. And it's the same reason that I've, for all intents and purposes, stopped drinking, and certainly stopped drinking later in the evening, because, you know, my Garmin would show me my sleep quality the next day, my HRV, my heart rate, and they would just be destroyed by a single glass of wine at 9 p.m. or something. And it just isn't worth it to me because it doesn't align with my objectives. And of course, like that said, I don't live in a single mode all the time.
Yeah.
And so I indulge, and when I know I'm going to be on holidays with my family, or when I'm cooking a celebratory meal with my wife, or even if I've just like been really good for a week or a couple weeks and I just want to get some ice cream, like I do that. And at the same time, I don't ignore that there's like a lesson to be learned there. Like I will typically indulge in something that, again, I said ice cream or a cheesecake or something that is more of a rich meal that I find is delicious, but is going to actually have a slightly better impact on me than just literally eating pure granulated sugar like I used to in the form of candy. You know, so it's like it's made its way into even my sort of cheat meals, but I don't recommend anybody use this as a disciplinary tool. It's just telling you it's already happening.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's maybe the most important realization is there is no external party disciplining you. Mm-hmm. This is a connection between what's happening in your body and your brain, so you can actually see it. It's exposing the reality in a useful way, in an awareness way. And I think that awareness is always useful, always important. And if it's starting to feel disciplinary, it might be a good time to sort of take a break. But even for those folks that feel it's overly disciplinary, it's also important to recognize that it evolves over time. Mm-hmm. So, you know, as age sets in, as your context in life changes, you have a baby, you're not sleeping well, change jobs, get in better shape, get in worse shape, all that affects how you'll respond to the foods you're eating. So it's always useful, I think, to check in with awareness tools like this to just see where things are, even if you don't need to wear it continuously.
Definitely. No, I think that's an amazing answer. And I don't know if this is the right or the wrong way to wear levels, but when I've used the CGM, I actually try and be decently disciplinary when I'm with it. And my thought process is, you know, I have skin in the game. I've paid money for this thing. I'm going to wear it for like 30 to 60 days. I love pairing it with a food journal. I mean, obviously you guys have the app so you can pop in everything and understand what foods and the timing and how that relates to your blood sugar. But I love keeping a food journal and just saying like, look, I'm wearing this thing for 60 days. Let me see how disciplined and dialed in I can be. And I'm not saying this is going to be my normal for 12 months out of the year, but I think there's like, I don't know, there's like this mental and spiritual component that I love of just like trying to just be firing on all cylinders. And I feel like a CGM is such a cool catalyst to get all these different buckets in your life and your health together too.
I love that approach too. And there's a lot of people that use it in that context. And I think it makes total sense. It's sort of like a bit of a Whole30 sprint, or like there are other approaches that tend to focus on this, like get a reset going, get back on track, something like that. It's a super useful tool for that. And the feedback is so powerful I particularly like recommending to people, you know, if your plan is to start a CGM or start levels January 1st or January 2nd, maybe start actually December 20th and capture some of that reality, right? Just
Definitely
capture it, but don't overinvest in it. You're going to start on January 2nd. But the powerful thing is the relative change. And so going from the chaos of holidays into a bit of a ritual or a habit, changing all of those factors, food, sleep, exercise, and seeing things just like snap into order is a beautiful thing for me.
It is a beautiful
I love
thing.
seeing that. You know, it can be a little bit stressful for people who are hyper competitive and just like can't tolerate the fact that blood sugar is going crazy. Like maybe don't wear it over the holidays, but for a lot of folks, I think it's one of the most amazing realizations is that because there's a slight risk of when you put the CGM on when everything is dialed, you kind of lose some of the learning because some of the learning is actually those realizations that although that frosted cookie wasn't great, like that cheesecake was basically flat. Like that's a realization in and of itself. Or the impact of alcohol like is hyper counterintuitive for most people.
Yeah. That's such an interesting, I'm gonna have to do that next year then, where it's like just strap it on for a week, almost pretend like it doesn't even exist, and then just kind of monitor the data before you make those changes.
Yeah. Treat it as observational instead of interventional.
Definitely. And the thing I love about levels too is I think a lot of people get caught up in the sake of wearing wearables for the sake of wearing it, and they love the data. But it's like we need the data to develop intuition, which is what you've talked about, where I'm sure you'll continue to put levels on, but you've gotten to the point where you have this amazing intuition around like, okay, I'm eating this. This is probably spiking my blood sugar. I'm in tune with how I feel. This makes me feel good. This makes me feel really bad. And I think that's ultimately the goal with all this technology is don't just get caught up in the data for the sake of that. Like use it to actually develop that amazing intuition so you can go live an incredible life.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. It's an awareness tool. That's how we talk about it. This is drawing attention to what's really happening and showing you again, with a lot of the hyperpalatable foods, there is no obvious consequence. And the way we make decisions as humans is like we seek optimization, we seek improvement in some direction. And when you only have the feedback of flavor, because we evolved as humans in an environment where every calorie was a life-saving calorie, and so our hardwiring didn't keep up with the Industrial Revolution, where in a single meal I can eat more processed sugar than I could access in a lifetime not long ago, right? So we just simply don't have the tools to keep up with that. We don't have the sixth sense vector to tell what's going on inside. We just have taste.
Yeah.
And so without an ability to expose what's happening on the inside, which I think we need to use technology to help us do, we'll never develop that sixth sense. But what's really crazy is this interoception thing. It is almost like an evolving phantom sensation, like something, I don't know why I can now tell my blood sugar. It's subtle hints. It's like, maybe it's a pulse rate, maybe it's a body temperature thing, a flushing in my face, small little hints, but together I've now synthesized the ability to tell something about my internal condition that I couldn't previously tell. And it's only because technology existed, not technology to measure blood sugar, because measuring it once a year doesn't give me that. Measuring it continuously in the real world as I'm responding to the things that I'm doing, the choices I'm making, is how I evolved that. And I think that's a really important and instructive lesson, is that the tools to help people understand their health state and improve over time have to be dynamic and continuous. They have to be like, I can't wait until the scale increases by 10 pounds to start wondering, how did I get here? Like, what should I eat for lunch tomorrow? What's better is to understand in the moment when I eat something for lunch, how that affected me as immediately as possible. And that's how my behaviors will be able to update, and I'll be able to connect the dots between the reaction my body's experiencing and a sensation inside.
That's super interesting. So you're not even looking for one trigger in particular. There's just kind of this like general intuition that you've developed over years where you're like, I know my blood sugar is spiked.
I can point to a few subtle things. Yeah. Like if we were to go for a run after I eat a sugary meal, like this happens like clockwork. I'm going to bonk. And which for many people, they'll eat a bagel right before a run or something like that. I can't do it. And there's something about my insulin release that's, I think, a little bit delayed. So I'll have a huge blood sugar spike. My body will then flood me with insulin, and that will couple with my muscles absorbing more glucose, and I'll overcompensate and crash. And when that's happening, I mean, it's a confluence of things. I get a pit in my stomach. I get shaky legs. I get a cold sweat. My pulse rate quickens. So like at a certain pace, the first indication is that my heart rate will be slightly higher for that pace than it usually is. That's my first indicator. Then the next one is I'll start to get that pit in the stomach, and then the cold like skin sensation. And so I can call those things out as they're happening on a run.
Yeah. And
know that, okay, this is, I'm going to crash here. Like that was a bad meal timing. But in the more subtle like experiences, for example, when my blood sugar is, relatively stable and in range, I can't quite tell you what it is, but I think a lot of it has to actually do with body temperature, which is maybe like, yeah, I'd have to make some guesses and then go do some studies on it to be able to really know. But all that to say, something's happening in the background that is processing these things.
Got it.